If you drive on Columbus's inner belt, I-670, it's impossible to miss the huge Jumbotron-like signs now mounted over the freeway between downtown and John Glenn International Airport. The signs, 60 feet long and 10 feet high, are the latest preparation for the launch of the state's first smart lane this fall. It's a 7-mile corridor that will be monitored by cameras and watched in the Ohio Department of Transportation's statewide traffic management center. Our videographer Dan Connick hit the road to find out more about how the smart lane will work.
So the smart lane is basically we're going to use the wide shoulder on the inside of 670 to be a temporary lane of traffic when we need it. And we really only need that during the afternoon drive, the afternoon commute home from downtown Columbus out to 270 on the east side of Columbus for a couple of hours. That's when traffic is heaviest. Here we are midday on a weekday and you can see traffic's flowing just fine behind me. But if you come at the same spot about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, traffic will be at a standstill or moving very slowly. So to alleviate that traffic, we're going to create a separate lane of travel temporarily, and it's called the smart lane. Smart lane just means that when we start seeing traffic conditions deteriorating to the point where we're seeing a lot of congestion, we'll open that lane. So it will be used when it's needed, it'll be closed when it's not. So you won't be able to drive on it. So right now, even if those barrels were not there, it's a shoulder, it's a closed lane of traffic. You can get a ticket for driving on that piece of pavement. And that will be the same when the smart lane is operational. If there's a big red X, that means the smart lane is closed and you're not allowed to drive on that. And you can get a ticket for doing that. When there's a big green arrow, that means the smart lane is open, and that's when we're using it to deal with either congestion from just normal traffic, or there might be a crash that's causing congestion. We could open the smart lane for that as well. To build an additional lane of traffic permanently would be extremely costly relative to what we're doing here. So it just doesn't make sense to spend millions of dollars more to build a lane that's really only needed for a couple hours a day. To start, there will probably be a learning curve just because this is the first one in Ohio. And I think at first, there's a learning curve of trying to figure out exactly how does this work? Why am I doing this? What do you mean I can drive in it now, but I can't drive in it later? But once we get past that and people start to figure it out, the commuters who use it every day, I think that it will be successful. When you look at the concept here, there are a lot of locations across the state of Ohio where we have congestion, but really that congestion is only at certain times of the day. It's not a constant thing. We don't need to build in extra capacity because we're having ongoing issues. It's a very narrow time. So we're trying to identify other locations where if this works successfully, we could implement the same principles in other areas of the state. We know we can't build our way out of congestion. We have to be using technology. We have to better manage the traffic within the footprint we have right now on our highways. We can't just keep adding lanes all over the place. That's not sustainable. That's not economically feasible. So if we can do things like this, where we're already using the existing roadway, just adding some extra capacity within the footprint during the time we need it, then that's a better use of our resources, because we know that the taxpayer resources we get at ODOT are not infinite. There's a limit, and so we have to work within those limits. We know there are locations across the state of Ohio where we have traffic congestion pinch points that really are problems during just certain hours of the day. It's not a constant issue. So certainly those are areas where we'll be looking to next, if this is successful, to rolling out. We'll be identifying those other locations where we feel like this concept could be successful. And so I would be surprised if this is the only time we do this in the state of Ohio. I think there will probably be future pilot projects. When and where those are, yet to be determined.
The Smart Lane project cost around $61 million, with a big portion of that going to a new ramp connecting 670 with I-270 on the northeast side of Columbus. And the state's new budget allows ODOT to lower the speed limits on I-670 when the Smart Lane is open, because studies have shown slower speeds can keep traffic moving better.